gang, thanks for joining us for another episode of Chicken Skin Moments with Dain, when I normally share really cool stuff with you that I found in the Bible, but today's topic, religion and science, doesn't really necessarily come from the Bible. It's sort of a discussion of how the Bible fits into all of this. Let me explain. This is a huge and broad subject that you could spend the rest of your life studying: science and religion. I'm going to give you just a very short lesson today, sort of to help give you some terms to help you understand these things better. Let me give you an example. When I say science, what I really mean is like the material, physical things of this world. Like, let me give you an example. Like this pen. I believe it exists. I believe it has mass. I can touch it. I can smell it. I can see it. If it made noise, I could hear it. I could put it in a test tube and I could run experiments on it. Now, for today's philosophical discussion, we're going to call all things material as the lower room, the earthly things. That should make sense to most of you Christians, right? The lower physical things, okay? Now, in the upper room are all these things that are more really like concepts and ideas of the transcendent realities. But these ideas are very important. They are things like justice or truth. Right and wrong. I would even throw love in there. Now, even all those things I just mentioned don't have a physical reality. You can't touch them or see them, maybe hear them, but that's a different story. I can't see them or what have you. Yet we believe in them because actually it's proven everybody exists with an idea of these things. Everybody has an idea of what's fair and what's not. Let me give you an example to use the extremes. The Eastern religions might be extreme in one room or the other. They're completely in the upper room. And what they say is that this pen, for example, doesn't actually exist. Right? But that's a hard reality to live in. If I was to go to one of those people who doesn't believe in a reality like that, in the physical reality, and what if I just snatch their phone out of their hand? And they're like, hey man, give me my phone back. And I'm like, no. This phone doesn't really exist. It's not like I took anything from you because you're not real, I'm not real, and this phone's not real. It's just all made up, right? I think they might have a little problem with that. Now, some people want to exist only in the lower room. You know, these are like, I'm an atheist. I only believe in science or whatever. Only objective reality. This is the only real thing because you can't put God in a test tube. I can't see him. I can't hear him, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's actually a hard room to live in as well, because if I were to take that guy's phone, he might be like, hey, give me my phone back. That's not right. And I could say, no, according to the principles of Darwin or whatever, no, I'm bigger than you. I possess this. This is now my phone. And he could be like, call a cop. He stole my phone. And that would bring in this element of justice. But you see the problem? That is an upper room idea. So don't believe anybody when they say they don't believe in one thing or the other, because everybody operates with both these worlds in mind. Here's a central point for today's teaching. A belief system is a way to make sense of both these worlds. It's where these two worlds connect. And everybody has to sort of do this. Now, in her book, Total Truth, a gal by the name of Nancy Pearcey explains all of this beautifully. And if you want a further explanation, I highly recommend you get the book. But she says for everybody, no matter who you are, there's always a little bit of a gap between this physical reality and a transcendent reality. And everybody tries to breach that gap with a belief system. So the scientist might say something like, well, I believe in the dignity of the human race, and even though justice is only a made-up concept, we have to have justice, otherwise we couldn't have a world. We couldn't get along together. But see what he did there? He made the gap. Even though he claims not to believe in a transcendent idea, he really does. Now, religious people have, and I mean all religions too, no matter what religion, whether you believe in Hindu pagan gods or the Judeo-Christian God of heaven, they believe in a sovereign reality in the transcendent world. And these God or gods, they have rules and regulations about how people need to live out their physical lives down here in the lower room. And then, of course, the way, if you're in the lower room, the way to get to that upper room is to live out those rules or those laws, whether, you have to sacrifice goats or what have you to get up there or whatever. But there's still that gap between the two. Now, here's what's really interesting. Nancy Pearcey asserts in her book that there is no greater explanation for the connection between the upper room and the lower room than Christianity. And here's why, and I think you're going to find this fascinating. You see, in the Old Testament, you had God, Yahweh, in heaven dictating rules to his people down here. And they, for better or for worse, sometimes they obeyed and God blessed them with physical blessings, and sometimes they disobeyed and then God removed his presence and they suffered from lack of those physical blessings. But he kept talking about a Messiah who was to come, who we of course know as Jesus Christ. Now consider this. Jesus Christ is the transcendent sovereign God living in the upper room who comes down into the physical reality world, and he inhabits a material body as Jesus Christ. But what's fascinating about his life is as he goes about in this lower room in a physical body, he lives out the transcendent reality from which he came. In other words, everything that he speaks is truth. Everything that he does is love. Every action he commits is justice. And so Christ himself perfectly unites the upper room and the lower room together in himself. Now, if I can just close with one last idea, and this is for all you believers, or unbelievers perhaps. The beauty of the gospel is it says we in our physical reality can be perfectly united with the transcendent God because Jesus Christ paid for our trespasses down here in the lower room, and he gives us access into his upper room with him and brings us into a state of being called either the kingdom of God or after we die, heaven. And if you want to know what that's like, well, watch the next video I'm going to do on heaven. But that's another topic. I hope you enjoyed this little brief discussion on science and religion, and I hope I gave you some terms that will help you think about these things in the future. Hey gang, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell your friends, write your congressman, whatever you got to do. But thanks for watching the video. You're going to want to check out this next video as well. And other than that, we'll see you next time. God bless.